Hi, Kristin here, and welcome to my weekly live Q&A on my channel, From Chronic Fatigue to Chronic Abundance. I host these weekly live Q&As because I realized that it can be a lot more helpful to people to meet you where you're at today, to help you with the challenges you're facing right now, to answer the questions that you have today, and to make sure that I'm delivering content that is actually super meaningful and helpful to you immediately. If you look at my channel, I have over 100 videos on this channel at this point, well over 100. And most of my older videos were actually pre-recorded, very edited videos. And it talks about what the healing mindset is, how you can implement it in your daily life. I have a number of meditations recorded that are in a separate playlist as well. And while those videos were great, I'm getting a lot more traction when I do these live Q&As, meaning the feedback I'm getting from you all is that these live Q&As are more helpful to you than me picking a topic and just talking about it randomly. That being said, hi, Casey Starlight. Welcome back. I love to see people joining in on the chat over multiple videos. We're having a little tiny community that's growing here where people are getting to know each other. And, I do these Q&As not for myself, but I do them for you guys. I want you to be here to get the support and help you need. And maybe that isn't just from me. Maybe you're getting help and support from other people in the chat. And the only way to do that is to show up in the chat yourself. Say hi, check in. Would love to know where you guys are from, and get your questions typed up. All right. The way this works is people just have questions and they drop them in the chat box over here and I go through them in order, and no question is too big or too small, too silly or too weird, too personal, too taboo. If it has to do with living with severe chronic fatigue as a symptom, it's on topic and we'll talk about it. I am not easily offended or made uncomfortable. I'm a pretty open book about my own journey and experience with health. If you're new here and you don't know, I have recovered from severe chronic fatigue on 3 different occasions. There was the first time I got sick and I completely recovered my life for an entire year. And then I relapsed again and I was recovering and I relapsed again and then I recovered. So each time I recovered faster because I was learning how to heal. And here's the thing. People always want to know, what doctor did you see? What supplements were you on? What treatments did you do? I needed different doctors, different supplements, different treatments, different blood work each and every single time I healed. Okay. So I'm one person and I needed 3 different journeys. I'm holding up 4 fingers. I needed 3 different journeys to get better. If I, as one person, needed 3 different plans to heal, there is no one plan for us to get over this. We've each got to find our own unique healing journey. Okay. There is one thing that helped me heal each and every time, and it's what helps me heal faster each and every time too. And I believe it's what's helped me. I feel like I'm completely out of the relapse cycle now. It's been 4 years since I last recovered. And I feel like I'm out of it. Time will tell, of course. But the one thing I needed each and every time was the healing mindset. My mindset is what kept me motivated. It gave me hope when things were really dark and really grim. It kept me going. It kept me fighting when things looked bleak. It kept me advocating for myself, all right? It kept me looking for doctors and practitioners who could actually help me, and it got me to say bye-bye to the doctors who dismissed me and minimized my symptoms and told me it was just in my head, okay? The mindset I used is what got me better each time. It wasn't the only thing I needed. This was not in my head. I'm not saying it's in your head. It's in nobody's head. There were real physical issues happening as well that I needed to address, but I don't know if I ever would have gotten better without the healing mindset. And I know for sure that the healing mindset was what helped me heal faster each time. Okay. So that's what I talk about on here, the healing mindset, the emotional aspect of life with severe chronic fatigue and how to heal. Okay. If you have any questions about that, I would love to talk about it. Hi. Okay. I'm going to say your name wrong again. We talked about this last time. You said it was like an English person saying bath, which to me would be like a bath, but I say Roth, and you say that's more like an ROF than an RAF. So I'm afraid, can I just say your last name? Is it Nagels? Nagels? Maybe I'll get that right instead of your first name. All right. Hi, Tamara K. Welcome. Let's see. All right. I'm just going to say Roth, even though you've told me that's wrong. We'll have to figure out how to pronounce your name at some point. You've had a lot of anger outbreaks the last couple of days, and especially right now. And you know what to do, but it's not happening. It's been almost 2 years since it happened, and it feels like an addiction to you, and you have these anger outbreaks. All right, this is a really tough thing to talk about. You know, anytime we're feeling anything intense, whether it's a light emotion, a light feeling that gives us energy, or whether it's a heavy emotion that takes energy away from us, anger can be kind of both. In the moment, we can feel super energized when we're angry. I mean, we can feel lit up and livid and like we're ready to freaking fight somebody when we're angry. And then on the flip side, once we're done being angry, we can be left so drained and so wiped after that anger has left us. So short-term anger can be can feel like it's giving us a lot of energy, but longer term, it's really an extremely draining emotion to feel. And you know, when you have such limited energy as you do when you have severe chronic fatigue, that energy drain can be really severe and something we want to avoid overall. So the anger, we want to look at it as a message. Raf. Oh, you wrote some more. Let me see. You almost don't want to let go. You want revenge. You're not proud of it, but you have real concrete plans, nothing violent. Okay. So it sounds like someone wronged you in some way. Someone did something to you that they shouldn't have done. And you're feeling very angry about this interpersonal dynamic that went down. And you want to get back. You want justice. I know that feeling well. I completely understand this strong draw to feel better by making someone else feel bad. And I know how justified it can feel, and I know I know how delicious it is, even after the fact. Revenge can feel really, really good. Mm, let's see. All right, Tamara, thanks for jumping in and making a recommendation. Um, okay, you've watched some of that woman's videos, but only 2 trauma-related videos of her. Let's see. Yeah, so when it comes to anger, my take on anger management is to, anger is a hard one because when the anger is there, it's very hard to perform some self-reflection. It's really hard in that moment to like sit and listen for the message, the deeper message that anger is trying to tell you. and then like the subsequent desire for revenge is us trying to make ourselves feel better, which is totally healthy and natural to want to feel better, but it's not really a productive way to feel better because I tell you what, as good as you can envision getting revenge will feel, it's going to take you a lot of time and energy to plan out and then execute on your revenge. And sometimes revenge backfires. And is that really how you want to be spending your energy? And then maybe the answer is yeah. And that's okay if you really think on this and you're like, okay, big picture, is this really how I want to spend my time and energy when I'm living with severe chronic fatigue? Would I rather take this energy and time and pour it into my healing journey? And like I said, your answer can be either way, but just make sure it's a conscious, intentional answer. But while the anger is there, it's very, very hard to think rationally because when the anger is there, we automatically go deep into fight or flight response. That's where all that energy comes from when we're angry. And that's why it's so draining when it's done because your adrenaline and cortisol are extremely spiked. Your immune system inflammatory response is up. When you're in the stress response, your brain actually reprioritizes blood flow to the reactionary reptile part of our brain. Okay, that's the old, just completely reactionary part of our brain. And the higher thinking portions of our brain get deprioritized. All right, so we literally can't think through things logically. We can't sit back and reason through what we're doing when we're super angry and in the stressed fight or flight response. So I'm sharing these things with you for information and probably as a reminder, because you probably know a lot of these things. And I would just caution you against choosing to do anything very rash or expending too much energy on this while you're still angry. If you can find a way to um, get past the anger, expel it until it's gone, or find a way to calm yourself down. There's different ways to do that. And if you still want to go through this revenge after you're calm, go for it. um, but when it comes to anger, I'm trying to remember, there's a very specific thing about anger I learned that I wanted to share, and I'm having a hard time remembering exactly how to articulate it here. Basically, okay, you know what I want to say about it? I want to say that anger is a sign that one of our boundaries has been violated. A very, very important boundary of ours has been violated. When a boundary has been violated, that means somebody has crossed a line for you that's a non-negotiable. All right. And anger isn't the only indication that someone's crossed a boundary. People can cross boundaries and we can respond in a lot of ways, but anger is definitely in response to a very, very deep, very, very big core need that's extremely valuable to us. Like one of our most important core needs has been violated when we're angry. And anger is a sign of that boundary being violated. And while revenge is short term about us feeling good, revenge doesn't actually reestablish that boundary. The way to more productively handle the anger is to spend time getting the anger out or calming yourself down into parasympathetic nervous system dominance, into rest and digest mode. And then being able to dig through the layers of the anger to figure out what boundary was violated, what core need became threatened because of this person. And then figuring out how to reestablish that boundary. Sometimes that's cutting that person out of your life. Sometimes it's having a conversation. Sometimes it's changing your dynamic. It can look a lot of different ways. And without knowing the details, I'm not going to give any specific examples because, when it comes to boundaries, it's so specific to the situation and the core need that's been violated. But that would be my take. So let me summarize that for you, since that was a long, thought process. When you're dealing with a lot of anger, remember that you physically can't logically reason through any decisions right now. So try not to make any big decisions, even though it's so tempting when you're feeling anger. Really consider whether or not the time and energy spent on revenge is actually worth it. And the answer could be yes, but make sure it's an intentional decision before moving ahead. Find a way to either express the anger and get it out in a safe way, like alone. I wouldn't suggest punching something or something very physically active when you have severe chronic fatigue, because that can be draining and cause a crash in its own way. So we want to avoid those situations. But if you need to scream, if you need to write shit out on a piece of paper in big, ugly letters, express the anger, or find ways to calm yourself down into parasympathetic nervous system dominance or rest and digest mode using meditations or things like that. So get past the anger. And once you're past the anger, then sit down and try to dig through the layers of that anger to figure out which one of your personal boundaries has been crossed in a major way. And then figure out the underlying core need that was threatened when your boundary was crossed by this person. And then start to brainstorm how you're going to reestablish that boundary with that person and how you can keep that boundary established, not just with them, but with other people in your life. And that can look like cutting them out. That can look like having a conversation. That can look like reestablishing the dynamic that you have. It can look like a million different things, but I would brainstorm through that. Thank you, Casey. I just looked over and saw your compliment. I appreciate that. Okay, so there's a lot happening in the chat. Let me catch up. All right, Tamara, you'd like to know how a typical recovery day looked like for me. I will come back to that, Tamara, but first I want to read through and see if there's any other comments on the topic that Roth asked about. All right, Casey has another question. I'll come back to that too. Oh, you're near Philly, sort of near Philly. That's super cool. All right, then we can definitely talk specifics. All right, and then Tamara, I'm recommending this Irene Lyon. All right, Casey offered some advice on how to let go of anger. She did a burning ceremony on the full moon, and she wrote down everything you wanted to let go of, and then she burned the paper, and it helped her release a lot of anger and fear and resentment. That can be a helpful thing to do if that resonates with you. Let's see. Yep, Ross heard of the burning thing before. Could be something to try, like right now. Yeah, Casey thinks it's pretty cool. It helps her put her anger in the physical realm and let go of it. Oh, I love that expression of like getting it out of your head and into the real world as something separate from you, because our anger is not us. It feels like us in the moment. It feels like it's so real and we're so wrapped up in it and we so identify with it in the moment, but it's not. It's not us. It's not part of our soul. It's not part of what endures and continues. It is a momentary experience. And she still gets angry, but less so. So it's helped you reduce the amount of anger that you feel over time. That's cool. And you're able to reach a calm state. All right, Ralph says the thing with revenge, you can do it in two ways. One doesn't backfire in any way, but even then you think it hinders your recovery, not only because of the energy it'll take. I mean, yeah, I mean, so it's good that you realize that that the revenge with the other person won't backfire in terms of that relationship, but it sounds like it would backfire personally in terms of your health. It can set your health back. And my hope for you is that nothing in the world is more important than your health and your recovery right now. My hope for you would be that you choose your health every chance you get right now until you're at a place where you're happy with your health and the state of your life again. I mean, that being said, I know what I've chosen revenge in the past, and I can understand the appeal. And there's one piece of revenge I got years and years ago that, man, it still makes me feel good about it when I think about it. I hate to admit that, but I'm just saying I get it. Sometimes it feels worth it. But yeah, if the cost to your health is too big, I hope you choose your health. That's all I'm going to say. All right, so the crash is kind of your fault, kind of theirs. And as long as you believe in the victim story, you can't let go of it. All right, you hit on something really big here. There is a victim story that you're holding on to, and that victim story is keeping you angry. That's not a coincidence. That's how these things work. I think we've all known or either witnessed people who can have something very disrespectful done to them, something horrible done to them. And when we expect them to respond with anger and hate and, standing up for themselves and defending themselves, some of these people are able to instead respond with calmness and compassion for the other person in a way that can be bewildering to us as the observer and to the person receiving that, the person who instigated that sort of response. One thing that comes to mind, this is a very extreme story of this. There was an Amish family. If you're not familiar with the Amish, they live very traditionally here in the U.S. They're also referred to as Mennonites, and most of them live very, very strictly in terms of their religious beliefs and their avoidance of all technology. Their homes don't have electricity in them. They don't have any running water. They still have manual pumps for water. They all live on farms and do farming, and they live in very rural areas. They don't drive cars. They still use horses and buggies to get from place to place. So they'll be on very rural, very curvy roads where drivers tend to drive really fast. And there was, I think, 3 or 4 kids from one family in a buggy driving down the road, driving their horse and buggy down the road. And there was a guy in a big cargo van who was driving to work, and he was on his cell phone. and he was texting his wife that he loved her. And while he was looking down at his phone, he came up over a hill, and the buggy was right there. He didn't see the buggy, and he ran right into the back of the buggy and killed all of the children, all 3 or 4 children, killed the horse that was carrying the buggy. And it was just a really, really gruesome, essentially a massacre. And of course, this driver is being filmed, like recounting what happened. And he feels so terrible with what happened. And at one point he had to go meet those kids' parents, and he expected hate. He expected anger. He expected to be chewed out, and he felt like he deserved hate and anger and to be chewed out and all of that. That's what he was preparing himself for. But instead, their father came over to him and expressed sympathy for him, said, you must feel terrible. We know that you didn't mean to kill our children, and we know that we can see that you're living with the guilt of this. And, our prayers go out to you and our hearts go out to you for having to live with this and for having to go to prison for this and everything. And this guy was just completely shocked. He was completely blown away that he just killed this man's children, all of this man's children at once. And he received nothing but love and compassion from that person. If that man had come to him instead and come with, let's just say it's all a story, okay? The story of victimhood, of, oh my God, you did this to me. Look at what happened to me. We would all think it's okay. Societally, it's acceptable to express a lot of anger and hatred and to chew people out when we've societally deemed it acceptable. But because this man doesn't live within our society, he lives within his own secluded society of Amish and Mennonites. He has a different view on things. His view is, he's very religious. This father is very religious. And from his point of view, there is no victimhood in life ever. He says, if this is what happened, this is what God wanted. And if God wanted me to lose my children, there's a reason for it. Even though I'm in a lot of pain and I'm grieving and I'm suffering, there's a reason for it. And if this man is the one who killed my children, there's a reason for it. Even though he's suffering and going through a really hard time and completely regrets it, he just believes that there's no victimhood whatsoever and that there's a reason for all of it. And we've just got to find that reason and live with love and compassion for one another, regardless of what happens. So, while we talk about victimhood story on one side, he talks about almost like a fate story, like everything is happening as it's supposed to be, and we just have to learn how to accept it. And I'm not saying that this father is right, that this is the way to live, and it's the only way to live, or it's a good way to live. I'm sharing this to show you that there are people who have learned how to live without a victimhood story in even the worst situations in life. And that we can choose what story we listen to and what story we live by and believe. And we don't have to be religious to choose a story of no victimhood. For me, I personally try to live a story of no victimhood. And I'm not religious. It's more my experiences, and especially my experience with illness, as hard as it was to lose everything in my life, lose my ability to work, lose my high-paying job, lose my health insurance, lose friends, lose relationships. I never felt like a victim because I don't play into that story. As much as I can, I don't play into that story. And me recovering from those health issues, or let me put it another way, me getting sick became my opportunity to learn how to live properly, to learn how to live in a way that makes me happy and brings me joy and brings me so much more abundance than I had before I ever fell ill. All right. That first health crisis ended up being something that happened for me because I took the opportunity to learn something new, to learn a better way to live. And I didn't know that when I first got ill. It was only like after I got better that I was able to shape it and put that realization on it. But it's been a really powerful, positive one for me to never feel like a victim, even when I relapsed again and again. So, I'm not asking you to act in this way. I'm asking you to reflect on how could things look different if you held on to a different story. If you held on to a story of this happens for me, or this happens for a reason, or this is an opportunity for me to learn something that's going to benefit my life, right? One thing you could ask yourself is, a year from today, if I use this opportunity to learn something, what would that be? A year from today, what would I say I learned from this experience? And then you kind of have your answer as the best way forward. I hope that didn't come across the wrong way. When I share things like that, I'm always afraid that people feel like I'm saying they need to always be positive about things and that they can't feel bad about things ever and that we can't feel hopeless and stuff. And it's okay to feel all of those things. I want to encourage you guys not to get stuck in those emotions, not to get stuck in victimhood, not to get stuck in feeling hopeless or demotivated about where you're at with your health. It's healthy and normal to have feelings of like anger, wrath, and to want revenge. But is that really going to leave you in the best place possible a day from today, a year from today? All right, let me catch up on the comments. Let's see. All right. So Ralph says, indirect, it hurts taking revenge because when you plan to execute, your subconscious will believe the story where they caused the crash. And it has to, because you wouldn't hate them if it was my fault. Ralph, you're showing a really deep level of self-awareness here. And that's beautiful because you can see the different parts of your brain functioning differently. You can see what it's like to hold on to the anger and the victimhood and to feel on and to hang on to blaming them for what's going on with you. And you can also see that there are other ways to think. And maybe it's hard to crystallize what those other options for you, but you're aware that they're there. And that's fantastic. I'm really happy for you. It may not feel like it, but that's actually a really big step, a really big level of maturity and emotional intelligence that you're displaying right here. Casey, yes, Mennonites and Amish are different. There's lots of different. I said both because each different little like sect is somewhere on the spectrum of like not using technology. And some of the Mennonites are becoming much more liberal in their use of technology. Some of them like own cell phones and things like that. But it's a general avoidance of technology that I don't want to say defines them, but makes them different from everybody else. Let's see. Casey says, even when you can't find compassion in these situations of anger, it's good to at least resign yourself to those feelings. Yeah, I think we can. I don't think we're never going to completely eliminate anger and a desire for revenge and feeling bad about bad situations in life, right? Like when I was really ill, I mean, of course I felt terrible, terrible, terrible about it. But I used my mindset to not dwell, to focus more on action than I did to focus on dwelling on things. So, all right, where does this leave us? Ralph, it sounds like you have such a level of self-awareness here. That's beautiful. Because you know that the victimhood story is a story, just like the everything happens for a reason story is just a story as well. And you seem aware that you get to choose how to move forward from here. You get to choose whether you're going to move forward from a place of anger and a desire for revenge, or you get to move forward from a place that is going to serve you and your priorities best. What is going to serve your health journey best? And one other thing I would do is try to find the lesson learned here. All right. Like you say that this person is partially responsible for your crash. I don't know anything about the situation to comment on that. But I would say if you find yourself in a similar situation with another person in the future, what have you learned from this situation that you would apply to this if it happened again in the future? Maybe you wouldn't engage with someone like this. Maybe you wouldn't take their advice. Maybe you would stand up for yourself harder. I don't know what it is, but if you can find that lesson that you learned that you're going to carry forward with you, and you can focus more on having learned that lesson and having appreciation and gratitude today to know that you're not going to make that mistake again in the future, that can be a really great way to get yourself out of the anger, to get yourself into a more like a lighter emotional place, and to find a way to say, okay, this happened for me so I could learn XYZ, right? I mean, there's still injustices and unfair things that happen in the world and things that shouldn't happen to us, etc. But when things can't be undone and they can't be fixed, all we can do is choose how to move forward. And I want you to move forward in the way that saves the most energy for your healing journey. That's what I want you to do. Oh, hi, Anna. I'm glad you made it for the second half. All right. So yeah, Tamara just asked her question again, or, a follow on to her question, I guess. Roth, I struggle with your name. I'm going to let you kind of think about everything we just talked about for the past 25 minutes. And if you have any more questions about this today or any insights, I'd love to hear what insights you've gotten out of this, or if anyone else has more advice for Roth, I would love to see that continue in the chat here. Maybe we can come back and revisit it at the end. I'm going to go back to the beginning because I know there were a few questions back here, and we'll talk about a few other things and then try to come back to this whole anger issue and the victimhood story and the revenge and all that at the end, because I think it's a really great topic, and I think it's really worth touching on again. All right, cool. Let's see. All right, Tamara, what would a typical recovery day look like for me? I would say there really wasn't much of a typical recovery day. I didn't have a schedule. In fact, part of my recovery was not being on a schedule. Part of my recovery was just completely leaving each day as unplanned as possible so that I could respond to my body's ever-changing energy needs moment to moment. That was really my ideal. No alarms to wake up at a certain time. I definitely made efforts. We'll start at night. I definitely made efforts at night to go to bed at the same time or very close to the same time, because I know that being on a regular sleep schedule is foundational for health. Whether you're healthy or you have severe health issues, getting to bed at about the same time, 7 nights a week, is super healthy and gives your body the best possible chance for a good day tomorrow. That being said, I never set alarms. I would just wake up in the morning. But because I was so good about my sleep and so good about getting to bed at about the same time, my body was very much on a schedule, and I woke up about the same time every morning anyway. But if I needed extra sleep, my body could just have it. That was important. I would, get up, and when I was living on my own, I would, for meals, I would have to have foods that needed minimal preparation, like literally things I could just grab out of the fridge or grab out of the pantry and lay back down and eat. That was the way I fed myself. When I did have energy to cook, I would always batch cook in large quantities, so I'd have leftovers that I could just grab and take and sit down, because that was how I spent the least amount of money on my food, was by preparing as much of it as I could. And how I saved as much energy as possible, which was batch cooking when I could cook, and the rest of the time just making sure I had things on hand like a grab and go. An important part of my recovery was never having to go grocery shopping, or almost never having to go grocery shopping. I leveraged grocery delivery services, which are massive because, oh my God, grocery shopping is such a drain. Not only is it so hard to walk around the store and push around a cart and take things off shelves and have to be there for an hour and stand in line and all this stuff. There's the lights. The lights would be so draining. Those fluorescent lights are terrible. There's nowhere to sit down in grocery stores. Don't do it. Either get a grocery delivery service or have someone deliver your groceries. And I would just spend pretty much all day just lying on the couch or lying in bed. I would nap when I needed to. Um, when I was awake, but I wasn't really able to focus on anything, I watched way too much trashy TV because you don't need to follow along in a plot. You don't need to remember people's names. You don't need to remember what happened. Like just moments to moment, there's just drama happening and whatever. I don't recommend other people spend time watching trashy TV, but I'll be honest, it's what I did a lot of. Um, I would get really sensitive to light sometimes. I would get really sensitive to sound. They could be really draining for me. If I was too hot or too cold, I would get extremely exhausted. I had to be very careful about managing my body temperature and the temperature of the environment I was in. When I could, I would spend time online researching other people's health issues, looking for new diagnoses, looking at the symptoms that I had, looking for practitioners to work with, researching practitioners before I ever worked with them. Um, when I could, I would try to like chat with somebody I knew. But there just wasn't much. There just wasn't much to do. I spent as much time as possible researching my own recovery. After seeing like 6 specialists and getting dismissed by all of them and being told by all of them that I was fine and I just needed to like stress less and rest more, I realized that conventional doctors weren't going to be a help to me. And it took me a long time to find people online who could help. And when I worked with people online, there was never one person online who helped me through my entire journey. The people online were rather great at helping me through specific hurdles in my healing journey. They would help me with this part. They would get me a little bit better. And then they were kind of like at capacity for what they could do to help me. And I'd have to find someone else to help me. I was researching a lot of things to try on my own, but to be honest, when working on my own and researching things online, I never found any supplements or treatments or anything that really helped me. I really needed the guidance of someone knowledgeable who does this professionally to guide me as to what to try, because there's a million things to try. You can do acupuncture and yoga. You can try L-acetylcarnitine and CoQ10. You could try low-dose naltrexone. There's literally a million things out there you could try, and there's a story for every single one of those things where someone says, this cured my ME/CFS or this cured my whatever. But like, you don't know what's going to work for you until you try this stuff. So you can spend your entire life and all your money trying things and still never get better. That's why it's so crucial to work with a doctor or a practitioner who's helped other people like you. When I found people online, I only worked with people who had already helped people like me a bunch. And as it happens, those people themselves had gone through the same health issues, which is why they knew how to help me heal, because they'd figured it out too before me. And then they taught me what they knew. And then once I discovered the healing mindset the first time, I would spend some time every day in meditation. And not just any style of meditation, but the meditation I teach on this channel, which is like body scans and then like the secret handshake. What is it? It's wait, I can't even do it right now. No, it's grab the thumb, grab the index finger. Yeah, it's this. This is the secret handshake meditation where you twist your wrists. Those meditations get your body out of fight or flight and get it into rest and digest mode or parasympathetic dominance. Those meditations were transformative for me. They were extremely helpful for me learning and developing the healing mindset and conserving energy every day and enabling my body to heal. Like when you're in, I don't think you've been here before, Tamara, but maybe it's been a while. When you're in fight or flight stress response, your immune system is downregulated. Your body literally cannot do maintenance work or do deep healing work while you're stressed. You have to be in a calm, enjoyable state of parasympathetic dominance in order for your body to be fully enabled to heal. All right. So being in that mode, even though I found the right treatments and everything that I needed, they weren't really working very well for me until I found these styles of meditation that got me to calm the frick down, because it enabled my body to actually heal. And that was really big for me. And after discovering how helpful meditation was, once I was recovering and getting some more of my energy back, I started getting into yoga for very gentle movement. No core yoga, no power yoga, none of that like new age nonsense. It's not new age. It's just new modern, like it's more like workout yoga. None of that BS. I was more into like traditional yoga that is restorative and slow and intentional and not about getting lean muscles. It's about developing your inner world through developing the outer world. And that style of yoga also gets you into parasympathetic dominance, and helped me reestablish my fitness once I had the energy to do so. So, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to like a typical day, except I was resting as much as possible. Days when I felt extra tired, I would rest extra hard. Days when I had extra energy, I would do more, but I wouldn't physically do more. I would do more research into my health for the most part when I felt better. I would use those days to also do some cooking and things to support my down days. But I would say another thing I really learned how to do when I was healing and recovering was avoiding crashes at all costs. I know some of us feel like our crashes are unavoidable, like we just don't know what's happening. They take us by surprise. But if your crashes are still taking you by surprise, it just means you're not checking in with your body often enough. You don't have a deep enough feeling relationship with your body, and you need to cultivate that by checking in with it often and honoring what it tells you. Even if you don't want to have a down day, if you are, you've got to honor that. You've got to rest. You've got to put your health and prioritize your body's messages first. Because every time you crash, you're setting yourself back. You're digging your hole a little bit deeper and giving yourself a slightly longer recovery period. And the more you can avoid crashes, at the very least, it should help you stop getting worse. And at the best, it's going to help you begin to get better when you avoid crashes, when you also have the right supplements and treatments and things in place that you're doing for your body. So as for diet, we've talked about diet. We talked about diet quite a bit last month, actually. What I want to say about diet is that there was no one particular diet that healed me. There was no one particular diet that I was on when I healed. In fact, all my life, I've eaten tons and tons of vegetables, right? I've eaten pretty healthy my entire life. I haven't always been a health freak, but I've eaten way better than the average American my entire life, and I still got really sick. So I don't feel like, for the majority of people, I don't think diet plays that big of a role. The exception is if you have a food intolerance or a food allergy, you need to figure those things out. You need to be avoiding those foods. Like if you are eating things like gluten when you're celiac, or if you have a peanut allergy and you're eating peanuts, like that stuff needs to be figured out, and those things need to be removed from your diet, no doubt. And it's worth doing an elimination diet to find out if you do have any food intolerances or allergies. But an elimination diet is a short-term thing. It's something you try for several months. Like you do like the elimination period for like 30 days, and you do the reintroduction phase for several months, and you figure out if you have any food allergies or intolerances from there. But after that period of time, it's really about finding what works for you. So I still eat a much, much healthier diet than most people. I still love eating vegetables. I love eating fruit. I cook a lot of my own food. But at the same time, I eat a lot of animal products. I eat a lot of locally raised animal products, grass-fed, humanely raised, humanely killed, because I feel healthiest when I eat animal products. And I've had my cholesterol tested a bunch of times, and my cholesterol is actually excellent. It's like 175 with like high, I forget all the different cholesterol names at this point, whatever, but I have like exceptionally good cholesterol. So like eating animal products isn't personally an issue for me. And I feel great when I do eat them. I'm not gluten-free. I do eat gluten, But for the most part, the gluten I eat is from organically grown grains and locally produced, like wheat products. So for like if I'm eating bread, it's usually locally made organic wheat from flour that is not brominated. That is not bromate. It doesn't have bromides added to it. Most bread made today, almost like 99% of all bread made today, anything you find in a supermarket, almost anything you find in a supermarket has bromides added to it. So I specifically seek out bread products that are unbromated. Like Pepperidge Farm is the one national brand that does not bromate their breads. So big ups to Pepperidge Farm. And then there's like local producers I can find who don't add bromides to their breads. And I'm eating other grains like semolina, wheat flour, which is not genetically modified. I do very well eating that. If I eat too much conventional wheat that has been raised with like as a GMO crop with lots of pesticides on it and things, I don't feel well after a few days of eating that stuff. So I don't eat it. So I'm not militant about my diet. I will eat anything I want to eat at any point I want to eat it, as long as it makes me feel good eating it. And eating conventional foods and highly processed foods doesn't make me feel good, so I don't eat a lot of those. I eat primarily lots of whole fresh vegetables, locally sourced meats, homemade foods, locally produced foods, very cleanly produced foods, and that makes me feel great. I eat dairy. I eat sugar. I don't know. It's like some people would call my diet healthy and some wouldn't, but that's what I eat. And I haven't seen one diet be super great for anybody. I think it's about finding what makes you feel good. If that's more carbs, great. If that's more fat, great. If that's more protein, great. But I think the number one thing is feeling good and balancing that with minimizing the energy and resources it takes you to feed yourself. So experiment with it and get rid of any allergies or intolerances that you have. Like get rid of those foods that cause those. That would be my take on diet, Tamara. Let's see. Casey, which practitioners, doctors do I recommend? I personally don't have any one practitioner or doctor that I recommend. The right doctor for you is going to be very personal as to where you're at in your health journey. It's going to be very personal to what symptoms you have, to what you've already tried, to what you want to try, to what your own health goals are, even down to the level of personality. Because let's face it, just like not every person in the world is going to get along due to personality differences, doctors have personalities and so do patients. And not every doctor personality relationship is going to work out due to personalities. And that's okay. But you really need to find someone that you can dedicate to working with for a long time. So since you're near Philly, there is one person I would recommend looking into. He's the doctor I work with, and I think he's phenomenal. I've been working with him for almost 5 years. Oh my God. I started working with him right after my second relapse started, right after my first relapse started through my second relapse. And he helped me get through those. And then I've been working with him for the past 4 years because of, we're working on that last 5% of health. Like we're working on that last 5% of optimizing my life. We're not getting me to healthy anymore. Now we're getting me to amazing, which is great. I love getting to work on that side of things now. It feels amazing. His name is Chaikin, Cheikin. He has a website. You can Google it, Cheikin, Dr. Michael Chaikin. And, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily a great doctor for everybody. Because he does take insurance, but he might not take your insurance. I don't know. If he doesn't take your insurance, he's going to be extremely expensive to work with. There was a woman I know who went to work with him, even though her insurance, he was out of network for her. And the first round of blood work he ordered cost her $10,000. No joke. because he was under my insurance, when he ordered blood work for me, my insurance covered it all. It didn't cost me anything. But for her, it cost her $10,000. And most people don't have that kind of money. I didn't. I'm so glad my insurance covered him. But I'd also say he's not for everybody because he's a very intense personality. He will listen to you. He will honor everything you say. He will take the time to explain everything for you, but he's very energetic and he's very quick. And he can be a little demanding in what he wants from his patients. He wants someone who wants to be involved in their health journey. If you don't want to be involved in your health journey and you just want to show up and be told what to do, he's not going to be the right doctor for you. All right. There are other doctors out there who would be a better fit. And you've kind of got to go find them if that would be the case. All right, so heads up, I have a work meeting starting in 6 minutes, right at 2 p.m. So I am going to have to drop at like in 5 minutes, 4 minutes now. I wish we could keep going. Normally, I love to keep going past 2 o'clock if there's a great conversation happening, which there is. Ralph, we didn't get to check back in with you. Maybe we can do that in the Facebook group. That'd be great if you would check in with us in the Facebook group afterwards. If you're not part of the Facebook group, when this video is over, there's a link to it in the description. All right, so let me go through the rest of the chats before the time is up. All right, yes, Tamara, yes, Anna, that's true. I did explain things about diet. I will say, Anna, though, I've really been thinking about diet since we had that conversation because some people brought up some really great points. So I've really been trying to evolve how I want to talk about diet. And I think what I said today was what I really mean. Raf says TV isn't nearly as bad for recovery as people make it out to be. It's personal. It depends on what you're watching and how much and how sensitive you are to light and sound. If you're not very sensitive to light and sound, TV is not so bad. But if you are pretty sensitive to light and sound, then it can be very draining. So it really depends on your symptoms and where you're at. Casey, if you couldn't watch TVs and movies, you would be so sad. Yeah, it is hard for people who can't. Jamie, I did not try low-dose naltrexone. I put that out there as something that could be tried, as something that's, very popular and alluring to a lot of people. Low-dose naltrexone doesn't require, you can't get a prescription for it in the US, or it's very, very hard to get a prescription for it in the US because naltrexone is FDA approved for a particular, I think drug recovery. Or like drug withdrawals. Low-dose naltrexone is not approved by the FDA. There haven't been enough studies on low-dose naltrexone's effectiveness for the FDA to approve it for being used that way. So people will typically just order low-dose naltrexone on the internet from companies overseas, and then they use it without the supervision of a doctor, which is why it gets kind of scary. Yeah, Roxy says there's a pharmacy in Scotland that prescribes low-dose naltrexone. Like they don't do it here in the US. You've got to go somewhere else for it. I'm not super familiar with the LDN scene internationally. Oh, that's cool, Jamie. That Dr. Jared Younger is completing a clinical study on LDN. Oh, results date this August. That should be exciting to see what he finds. I mean, with one study, it's very hard to come to anything super conclusive with one study, but it should indicate whether or not it warrants more studies in this area. All right, that's cool, Roxy. Okay, you are going to go away. All right, cool. Let's see. Anna, would I say down days are the same as crashes? No, crash is when you've done something, you've overexerted yourself, and you're going through post-exertional malaise, all right? A crash is defined as experiencing post-exertional malaise. So exhaustion that is far out of proportion with the effort you just expended. I would say that's what a crash is. If you just have a general low day, those happen. There's not much you can do about that except honor them in the moment. But a down day due to a crash, that would be a problem. All right, so the diet video is from about a month ago. Thanks, guys, for finding that. Yeah, like Ralph said, the down days aren't avoidable. They're just part of it. I love that you guys are like just carrying on the conversation while I'm talking about something else. I think it's great. You only feel tired and bloated about after peanuts. Maybe wheat bloats you. Yeah, if you're eating things that make you feel bloated and lethargic, stop eating them. It's okay. I promise. Yeah, if your insurance sucks, it might be worth looking into Dr. Chaikin and just seeing if your insurance covers him or not. But he does require a ton of blood work. So if your insurance covers blood work, you're fine. And if it doesn't, then you're going to be in a hard place. All right. Yep. Yeah, rewatch it. We can connect in a couple days then on the Facebook group or something if you need more time to process Roth. Totally get it. Roth. Oh, LDN is for overdose of opiates. Yeah. Oh, Roth, you're allowed to do off-label usage in Belgium. That's interesting. That's pretty cool. All right, it's 2 p.m. on the dot. I have to run. I have to hop on another video. I feel terrible having to cut this short because I feel like we're in a really good place with this conversation. I would love to continue this, but we'll have to pick up next week. Same time, same place, 1 p.m. Eastern. What else do I want to say? I don't know. I'm so thankful you guys are here. I really enjoy this time with you. I love what's happening over here in the chats lately. And I would love to keep this conversation going this week in the Facebook group. Let's check in there, okay? As always, sending you love and health from the bottom of my heart. I'm Kristin. Take care. Mwah. All right. Bye, guys.